El farmacéutico es uno de los lobbies más influyentes del mundo.
应对挑战，利益行力量，破解。
Конечно, должны работать кооперативно, должны...
Farmacéuticas tienen demasiado poder.
Avecina una gran guerra entre la realidad virtual y la realidad aumentada.
A la Embajada de Pakistán. Primero, bueno, darle la bienvenida al programa y preguntarle cuáles son las razones históricas, qué es lo que subyace detrás del conflicto de Cachemira.
Today is the 27th of October, and all over the world, the Kashmiris as well as Pakistanis and freedom-loving nations are celebrating this day as a Flag Day, because on 27th of October 1947, the Indian forces landed in Kashmir and tried to occupy the land. Since then, this is the problem. So you have come on a very important day to discuss this subject. Let me give you a brief overview of the historical facts and some of the issues. You know that it's a legacy, the Kashmir dispute is a legacy of the British colonial rule in the Indian subcontinent, and the principle of partition, what we call, or the principle of independence at that time was that the Muslim majority areas would go towards Pakistan and the non-Muslim majority areas would join with India. So there were more than 525 princely states, small states. So they were given options to either join India or Pakistan or remain independent. And but the basic principle remained the same, that the Muslim majority areas would go towards Pakistan and the other would go towards that. So Kashmir at that time, even at that time, was a predominantly Muslim majority area with more than 70% population Muslim, and all the natural boundaries or mountains and everything, they are connected through Pakistan. The rivers flows towards Pakistan. There were the communication structure were also geared towards Pakistan, and people have affinity towards Pakistan. But what happened, unfortunately, that at that time there was a ruler, princely state ruler, Maharaja Hari Singh, and he somehow because he was not a Muslim, so he tried to annex Kashmir with India. And before that there was an uprising in Kashmir, and there is sufficient evidence which shows that the Maharaja was dethroned actually. But he went to New Delhi and claimed to have document accession presented to India. Based on that false claim and false evidences, Indian armed forces landed in Kashmir on 27th October 1947. But the fact is that the Kashmiris had never accepted that Indian forces in there, and for the last around 74 years they are trying to get their right to self-determination. And United Nations Security Council resolutions, there are numerous United Nations Security Council resolutions passed on that, which recognizes the Kashmir as a disputed territory between the two countries. And secondly, the right to self-determination to be determined through a free and fair plebiscite was given by United Nations to the Kashmiris, but unfortunately they are still struggling. And this is the origin. And then how it developed is that, you know, people had always tried to identify, Kashmiris have always tried to identify with Pakistan, and since 1989, a new wave of you know, Kashmiris demanding their freedom and the right to self-determination came, and for the last more than 22 years, the struggle has reached to a new level, and Pakistan is supporting these Kashmiris through diplomatic means so that they could achieve their right to self-determination.
¿Cuál es la situación hoy en lo que tiene que ver con Pakistán y India por el tema del Cachemira?
The current situation is that Kashmir is the most militarized zone of the world. Around 900,000 Indian forces are present in Kashmir. Kashmir has been turned, Indian occupied Kashmir has been turned into a virtual prison, open prison, and people are suffering, they are under tremendous pressure, they are suffocating. The forces, Indian forces have used pellet guns which have blinded thousands of Kashmiris. There are thousands of raids on their houses and search operations, and hundreds of people have been arrested, hundreds and thousands of people have been arrested. So the current situation is very bleak, and recently there was a spree of killings of the Kashmiris who were asking for the right to self-determination. Even very recently, if you see, 3 days ago, 3-4 days ago, there was a match between India and Pakistan, cricket match, played in UAE, Emirates. It's a T20 World Cup tournament, and Pakistan beat India with a big margin, and the Kashmiris in Indian occupied Kashmir and Srinagar, they celebrated Pakistan victory, and then and various educational institutions and various places, and there were backlash from the forces and from the local other communities, and they had they were tortured, the Kashmiris were tortured. So the current situation is very tense, and we hope that Kashmiris would one day get their right to self-determination.
¿Cómo usted analiza el impacto de la llegada de Modi con sus ideas al poder y cómo se ve afectada la situación con Pakistán?
The rise of extreme right wing in India definitely had impacted not only the Indian environment itself, but bilateral relations between India and Pakistan as well. And the Prime Minister of Pakistan had time and again pointed out that because of the rise of right wing, the Kashmir problem had been further complicated, because the rights of the Muslim minority in Kashmir are under tremendous pressure, and they had tried to modify the status of Kashmir through various means, and in August 2019 they tried to revoke certain of their orders so that the status of the Kashmir could be changed. And we perceive that demographic changes in Kashmir is being planned so that any future dispensation, Kashmiris could be denied their right to self-determination. And the Prime Minister of Pakistan had pointed out that, openly pointed out that Muslim minorities and other minorities they feel threatened and insecure, and
¿Cuáles son las causas que impiden que esto pueda avanzar? ¿Cómo piensa usted que pueden desarrollarse a futuro? ¿Cuáles serían los cambios o las bases sobre las cuales se podría encontrar una solución pacífica?
Peace in the region, very recently Prime Minister Imran Khan has mentioned that the basic and pivotal problem between Pakistan and India is Kashmir dispute. Unless that is addressed, the peace cannot be ensured. But as the neighbors, definitely Pakistan wants to have a very peaceful relation because both the countries are nuclearly armed, and any adventure by India would definitely have repercussions on peace and stability of two regions. And any false flag operations by India, if it is carried out, Pakistan says that there would be befitting and appropriate and proportionate response to it. So we want peace with India as well as other neighboring countries. We want to have increased trade. We want to have cooperation on diverse fields so that people of the two countries of the region would prosper and come out of the poverty trap. And especially we have seen that in the COVID situation, both the countries and the region needs a lot of cooperation and cooperative efforts. So we hope for peace in the region. I want to talk about Argentina's participation in the United Nations Military Observer Group between India and Pakistan. United Nations had created a military observers group in India and Pakistan. It's called UNMOGIP. And last year Argentina had participated. Two of the military observers had joined the UNMOGIP mission from Argentina. We welcome that. This year again a senior military officer from Argentina has been nominated to participate for next year as well. So we appreciate Argentina's participation and that would provide a further understanding of the dispute and this is a welcome sign. Argentina is a great country and it has an international role to play, and we urge Argentina as well as the international community to take note of the human rights violations and the torture and the killings of Kashmiris and the use of pellet guns in Kashmir against the Kashmiris and detentions of Kashmiris and the laws which prohibit freedom of expression, freedom of religion to Kashmiris. So Argentina has an important role to play because Argentina is also one of the great countries espousing for human rights in the world.
Muchas gracias y gracias por una noticia que pasó desapercibida con esta participación de la Argentina precisamente en este proceso.
Thank you very much.